So as I've mentioned a couple times already, we've got our last lesson of Unit 7 here, of Chapter 7. There's only 3 lessons in this entire chapter. I know I've mentioned that about 12 times now, so sorry if that's getting a little bit old. Nice short chapter, basically about, credit card payments, calculating how much you owe on a credit card. The calculations that we did a couple of days ago with the unpaid balance method, it's not a super common way for credit card companies to calculate the amount of interest that people owe. It's just kind of a way to introduce you to how interest could be calculated, but it wasn't necessarily the most accurate way of doing it. And if I'm honest, today's isn't 100% accurate in terms of how credit card companies compound your interest either. As we learned in, what unit was that? It might have even been Unit 5. Compounding interest earns more interest than simple interest because you get interest on your interest, right? And one of the very last lessons we learned in Chapter 5 was the daily compounding interest. And daily compounding interest meant that it was calculated every single day, which ended up giving you just that little bit much more of interest. And so most credit cards do the same thing when they calculate interest for credit cards. They calculate it on a daily basis, which is not what we're going to be doing today. It would be kind of a long, drawn-out, sort of more complicated way to do that, so we're not really going to worry about that. But today we'll give you an idea of a little bit more accurate idea about how credit card interest is actually calculated. So while this isn't perfectly accurate what we're doing today, it's certainly better than what we did in 7.2, because 7.2 is just more of an introduction. So we're going to be working on something called the average daily balance method today. So the objective here, as you can see, is to compute the finance charge. So the amount of interest owed, that's the finance charge, on the average daily balance method with new purchases included. So we're going to use a couple of the formulas that we learned in 7.2, which are right down here. We took a look at those a couple days ago. The different formula is going to be right here that we're going to use today because we used the unpaid balance method the other day. We're going to be using the average daily balance method today. So getting ready for the lesson here, it says, what are some advantages and disadvantages of using credit cards? And we saw a whole video on that yesterday. And it says here, Kanori Yamada is glad he did some research before applying for a credit card. By comparing the annual percentage rate that different banks charge, he was able to get a low one. His card also offered low fees in comparison to others he had investigated. So again, I would just kind of give the recommendation that it's not so much what the interest rates are, it's about avoiding paying interest at all, paying off your credit card in full every month. Like I mentioned a few days ago, like the video mentioned yesterday. But what I want to mention here is this idea of APR. APR is the annual percentage rate. And so it's basically 18% per year that you'd be paying on credit card one. And so what we're going to be looking at today are interest rates based off of the month. And so if interest is being calculated every month, which generally, like I said, it isn't, is usually calculated on a daily basis, but we're just going to stick with monthly. So if it's calculated every month, we'd actually have to take this percentage and divide it by 12 to get the that monthly percentage rate. So if we're looking at 18%, and again, we're not going to necessarily have to deal with this so much today, but if you see APR and these high percentages, and then we get into today's lesson, and you end up seeing percentage rates at like 2%, 18% and 2%, those are pretty different. Why are they so different? Well, that's because this 18% is talking about for the entire year. So monthly would be 18% or 0.18 divided by 12, which ends up being 0.015. So we're talking about 1.5% per month. So if you see something in today's lesson or assignment that says 2%, essentially what that means is that's 1 month's worth. So 0.02 times 12 would end up giving you a 24% APR for the entire year. So if you see these really high numbers over here, that's not the percentage that they're going to charge you every single month or every day or anything like that. It's about the annual percentage rate. So That's where the discrepancy in those large versus smaller numbers come in. Okay, moving along here. Determining finance charge when new purchases are included. So it says most companies granting credit compute the finance charge using the average daily balance method, new purchases included. New purchases included means that the company adds any new purchase to the balance at the end of each day. In other words, the daily balance equals the previous day's balance plus the new purchases, minus the payments and credits. So every single day something happens, that stuff gets updated. And we'll take a look at some tables and see what that looks like. Credit card companies also charge a late fee if they do not receive payment by the due date. And that's something we've already seen, talked about, and dealt with. In the first step in calculating the average daily balance, new purchases included, is to determine the balance for each day in the billing period and then use the following formula to find the average daily balance for the billing period. So we're going to end up having to use tables to do this, and the tables are already built on this piece of paper here. They're already built into the assignment as well. So you're not going to have to worry about like constructing your own tables. And so the formula, first formula we have here today, I'm going to go ahead and do the same color coding that I did a couple of days ago. So grab those notes here real quick, and let's see, the average daily balance. Finance charged, I used red, so I'm just going to put this one in red again. And I used blue for the new balance. And by the way, these are the exact same formulas that we used a couple days ago for finance charge and new balance. This top one, though, is different. I used yellow the other day to calculate the unpaid balance. So we're going to use green for average daily balance. That'll be fine for that. All right. So the only new formula here out of these three, we've used these two down here. The new one is right here. The average daily balance is equal to the sum of the daily balances divided by the number of days. So depending on what month it is, the number of days is going to be different. So I'm just going to make a table over here, and it's going to say number of days per month. Because I don't think this is something that a lot of people think about. And so there's this rhyme where it's like, oh, I'm just going to type on the right hand side, Jan, February, all the way down, all 12 of them. All right. And for February, we're just going to go with non-leap years. So we'll go with 28. And so there's this little rhyme, some of you might have heard it before, about knowing how many days are in each month. So it says like 30 days have September, April, June, and November. And then all the rest have 31, except for February, so that's 28. So we're looking at 31 for all these other ones here. All right, so those are the different amounts of days per month. And that'll be useful as we deal with some of these calculations that we're going to be seeing today. All right, so moving along here, let's go ahead and jump in and start working on some of these tables. So the second page here, example 1, says that Sierra Warren has a charge account with a company that computes the finance charge using the average daily balance new purchases included method. It says that she checks to be sure that the average daily balance is correct. See figure 7.3. All right, now everything that we're going to be doing with this table down here is already filled out on this chart here. But I want to talk about the different things that we're looking at here. So at the top, These two items up at the top here, these are any purchases and payments made throughout the month. So it looks like she's made one purchase of $25.85 on December 10th, and she made a payment of $70 on December 20th. So this is going to be added to the bill. This will be subtracted from it over here. So that'll be an addition. This will be a subtraction. Now it also tells us here that the billing period is December 1st through December 31st. So the month of December, which you can see is 31 days. And whoops, wrong paper. We can see here back on this table that we made, in case you forget, it also says 31 days there, which is going to be very important as we go through this example. Other things we're looking at. Previous balance that was brought in from the month of November is $125.80. The periodic rate is 2%, so that would be the monthly rate right here, 2%, or 0.02, which means that the APR would be 24%. And it gives us the answer here for average daily balance. We're going to calculate that down here, though, so I can show you how to do it, because a lot of the problems will not give you this number here. You have to find it out for yourself, so that's what this table down here is going to be used for, is calculating the average daily balance. We are then going to be able to figure out the finance charge based on the average daily balance, which is going to end up being $2.34, something that other tables won't have. Payments and credits total, so it gives you the individual items up here, and then it gives you the totals for the things down here. So it says payments and credits are 70, purchase and advances 25.85. We have a new balance, which we will be calculating as well, $83.99, and then the payment minimum, that's not something that we need to worry about too much, and then the payment due, we don't really need to worry too much about that one either. Essentially what we're looking for here are average daily balance, finance charge, and new balance. Those are the main. All right, we're back. So I'm not sure where I dropped out. Sorry about that. So the only three things that we need to be calculating here are the average daily balance, the finance charge, and the new balance. These are the answers for this first problem here, but we will not be given these on pretty much anything else. So right here, this table is what we're going to be using to calculate the average daily balance. Once we have that, the other two things, the finance charge and the new balance, will be pretty straightforward. But the thing that we're really learning how to do today, the new part of this, is calculating the average daily balance. So what we have to figure out here is, you'll notice here it says dates 12/1 to 12/9. The reason why it's showing 9 days worth here is because in the first 9 days of December, nothing happened in the credit card account. And we can see that here because the first date in December where something happened was December 10th, which means that December 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, nothing new was added or subtracted from that account. Now, the starting value of that account for the month of December was right here, the 125.80. It's the previous balance. And so what we're looking at here is this is the balance that carried over, meaning that the end of the day balance for the first 9 days was exactly the same every single day. It was that 125.80. So on December 1st, there was a balance of 125.80. On December 2nd, there is a balance of 125.80, and the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th, because no payments were made and no purchases were made. So I'm hoping that kind of makes sense. Like that's basically how much is owed on the account, and if no action happens, if nothing is bought or paid off, then that amount isn't going to change until something happens. And so the number of days to start off the month where there was a balance of $125.80 was the first 9 days of the month. So number of days is going to be 9. Now the sum of the balances is going to be every single one of those days added together, or in this case, 125.80 times 9 days. So on the first, it was 125.80. On the second, it was 125.80. And so we add up all of those, or in this case, multiply 125.80 and multiply by 9 days. So we get $1,132.20. So all those days added together equals $1,132.20. That's the number that goes here in the sum of the balances. Because what we're going to end up doing is finding the average of how much money was owed on the account, the average for one day over the entire month. And so we need to add together all of the balances across the entire month. Now the first 9 days, it was all the same, so we can just multiply those together to get this number here. On the 10th, there was a purchase. So that's why here it just says 12/10, single day, and there was a purchase of $25.85. So the purchase was for $25.85, and purchases add to the balance. So the balance on the day before was $125.80. The purchase of $25.85 adds to that total and gives us $151.65 for the end of the day balance on December 10th. So $151.65. Now this is just a single day. So the 10th is just one day, which means that the sum of the balances for one day is just that balance there. That's it, 151.65. Now on the 11th through the 19th, nothing happened because the next thing that happened was on the 20th. So this next part is going to be just like what we did on the first 9 days of the month. So our end of day balance is still going to be this 151.65, but it's another 9 days in a row of it being exactly that. So that's another 9 that goes there. And so we're going to take our 151.65, multiply that by 9, and we get 1,364 and 85 cents. 1,364.85. Now on the 20th, a payment was made of $70. So payment of 70. That will decrease the end of the day balance by $70. So we take our 151.65 and subtract 70. So now our end of day balance is reduced by $70. So we're at an $81.65 end of day balance for December 20th. So 81.65. That is a single day, the 20th. So number of days, 1, which means it's just 81.65 over here. So 81.65. All right. Now, the last bit here is maybe a little bit tricky. In terms of the end of the day balance, it's not. It's 81.65. How many days, and be really careful about this, how many days, what number of days are we going to plug in for this last number here? If it was December 21st through December 31st, what number are we going to put in for number of days? It might not be super obvious. So Just to let you know here, I think the obvious answer is 10. However, it's not 10. The 21st through the 31st is not 10 days. It's 11 days. And if you count it on your fingers, then you can see it, because because you're actually counting the 21st and the 31st. You're including both of those days. So say 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, okay? 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. That's 10 days. 31 is 11. So we end up with 11 days here because we have to include both the 21st and the 31st. And we know that the month of December, wrong page again, we know that the month of December has 31 days, meaning no matter what we do here, our number of days has to add up to 31 because there's 31 days in December. So if we take a look here, total number of days, 9 plus 1 plus 9 plus 1 plus 11, 31. So we have a total of 31 days. And we also have to take our 8165 and multiply that by the final 11 days, 8165 times 11, and we get $898.15. So to figure out the average daily balance, we need to know at the end of every single day, the balance at the end of every single day added together gives us the sum of all of those balances. So we have to add up all those numbers there. So 11, 32, 20 plus 151, 65 plus 13, 64, 85 plus 81, 65 plus 898, 15. So the sum of every single day ends up being $3,628.50. Now that doesn't mean that that's how much she owes. It's not how much she owes because it's just showing the total of everything that was purchased. But what we have to do, it says, first of all, step 1, find the sum of the daily balances. We just did that here. That's the sum of the daily balances. Step 2, find the average daily balance. Well, that's this formula right here that I've put in green. And the average daily balance is the sum of the daily balances divided by the number of days. So it's just this number here divided by this number here. So average daily balance equals sum of the balances right here, 3628.50 divided by number of days, 31. Now when we do that, it already tells us what the answer is here, 117.05. So that number is what we should get when we make this division happen. So I'm going to say divided by 31, and there it is, 117.048. The 8 rounds the 4 up to a 5, which is 117.05. So the average daily balance, $117.05. So what that means is, on any given day in the month of December, that right there is the average for any one day that was owed on the credit card in the month of December. Now, the two other things that we need to figure out are the finance charge, which is going to end up being $2.34, and we have to figure out the new balance, which will end up being $83.99. Now, these other two things we've already been doing. We did these in 7.2. So the finance charge equals the average daily balance multiplied by the periodic rate. We have the average daily balance, 117.05. Periodic rate is 2% or 0.02. So we're just going to multiply these two numbers together to get the finance charge, which should be $2.34. So finance charge is going to equal the average daily balance, 117.05, multiplied by the periodic rate of 2% or 0.02. And there it is, $2.34. Which is exactly what it told us up here is the finance charge, 234. So we're just verifying this right now to kind of show you how to make this work. And then the last thing is the new balance. And if we look back at the formulas that we had from a couple days ago, the new balance is equal to the unpaid balance plus the finance charge plus the new purchases. Okay, so quick reminder here about unpaid balance. The unpaid balance is going to be equal to the previous balance plus any purchases minus any payments, which, if we take a look here, should be this number down here, the 8165. So that is what we should end up with on that. So let's go ahead and take a look to make sure that that ends up being correct here. So 1 second here. All right, so 125.80 plus 25.85 minus 70 is 81.65. So the unpaid balance is $81.65. All right, now, actually, hang on. Whoops, no. Unpaid balance, sorry about that, is just, need to make a correction. Unpaid balance is just the previous balance minus payments. So scratch that for a second, sorry. Is going to be previous balance minus payments, sorry. So 125.80 minus 70. So the unpaid balance here is $54.80. I'm just going to do this off to the side. Unpaid balance. If we go back, had to double check the formula from a couple days ago. The yellow formula here, it's the previous balance minus all the payments and credits. So unpaid balance equals the 125.80 minus just the payments and credits, so 70. So that equals $54.80. All right, so that's the value that ends up here. All right, so the new balance, as we saw a couple days ago and earlier today as well, unpaid balance plus the finance charge plus the new purchases. So 54.80 plus the finance charge, $2.34, plus the new purchases, which is the 25.85. I accidentally included the 25.85 initially over here with unpaid balance. That was my mistake. So 25.85. So we are looking at a new balance of $82.99. Hang on just a second here. Oh, I subtracted 71 instead of 70. 54.80. Sorry about that. 55.80. Get some errors here, get that cleaned up. 5580, apologize again. 234 plus 2585, 8399. I mistyped. I wrote in minus 71 instead of 70. So there we go. And again, you can see that the new balance is here. So just double checking that, making sure that I was getting the right number. There we go. 8399, new balance. Everything matches. So the two formulas down here, as I've said, are just a combination of what we did a few days ago. The only real brand new thing is using this table to figure out the average daily balance. So let's go ahead and check out some more of this here. All right. So moving right along here. We got a brand new table here, and we're going to be filling out for some different A's, B's, and C's, figuring out the sum of the daily balances, the number of days, and the average daily balance. And so we're looking at, looks like September 9th through October 8th. So September 9th through October 8th. And so the 9th through the 15th are the first days here. And let's see, the first one's here, 9th through 15th. And each of the first 7 days of this billing cycle, it's not the first 7 days of the month because we're starting on the 9th here. So we're talking about a billing cycle here. So sometimes a billing cycle is not something that happens from the beginning of a month to the end of the month. Sometimes it can go from mid-month to mid-month or whenever. So 7 days, first 7 days of the billing cycle of $500. So that should end up being $3,500. But just to verify, 500 times 7, $3,500 for the sum of the balances there. The next day, September 16th, there was a purchase of $100, which increases the end of the day balance from 500 to 600. So it just gets added to the 500, goes to 600. That's a single day. So that's 600 right there. The 17th through the 21st is still the same end of day balance because nothing was added, nothing was subtracted. So that's 5 more days there. And a way that you can figure this out, like the number of days that have passed, you could use the elapsed times table or the elapsed time table that I put in the notes, or 17th through 21st, you can say, all right, the 21st minus the 17th. It's going to say 4 days, but we want to include the 17th and the 21st. So you do the subtraction and then add 1. So that's where that 5 comes from. So if you want to include the first and the last day, then you do the subtraction and then you add 1 to it at the end. So subtract the dates, add 1. And then, so 5 more days at $600 a day is going to be $3,000. The next day, the 22nd, there's a $150 payment. So we're going to take 600, we'll subtract 150 because we're taking that away, and that ends up being $450 now for the end of the day balance, $450. This is a single day, the 22nd. So that's going to be the just 1 day there, $450 for the end of the day balance, and the sum of the daily balances, those are the same for that one. And now we have to figure out how many days is it from September 23rd to October 8th. So this is where that table could come in handy. I'm just going to put it up on the screen here. I've included it again in your notes section, but I went ahead and printed it out again, or just had the copy of it here. So we're looking at September 23rd to October 8th. So October 8th is day 281. So I'm going to take 281 and subtract September 23rd. So September 23rd, I go straight over to September, is 266. So 281 minus 266 is 15 days, but I know that I want to include both of those dates, so I'm going to add 1 to that. So we're talking about 16 days for that last one. So you can use this chart that we've used before to find the difference between the two dates, but don't forget to add 1, because adding 1 will include both the first and the last day here on this chart. So that's 16. Now, if we also take a look at our first page of notes for the day, September has a total of 30 days. So that means that because we're going from September into October, you go to the September 29th, 30th, and then it goes to October 1, October 2, and so forth. So all of these numbers here should add up to 30, because September is the month that we're dealing with in terms of going from September to October. So this should be 30 days right here when we add those together. So 7, 1, 5, 1, 16, and there it is, 30 days. So it's not always going to be 30 days. It's not always going to be 31 days. Sometimes it'll be 28 days if it's February. So end of day balance, though, didn't change here. So that's still 450 multiplied by 16 days. So 450 times 16, 7,200. So just like we did on the first example, we need to add all these together to get the sum of the balances. So that's 3,500 plus 600 plus 3,000 plus 450 plus 7,200. $14,750. I'm just double checking. Yep, that's good. 14,750 is our sum of the daily balances, which is the number that just goes here, 14,750. So that goes in for A down there at the bottom. Number of days, 30. Nothing changes there. And then it even tells you here, sum of daily balance divided by number of days. So 14,750 divided by 30 is $491.67 for the average daily balance. So $491.67. Okay. Now, example 2, we actually already did that. That's what we did right down here at the bottom of the page. So it says, see example 1. This is example 1. It says the finance charge is computed at 2% of the average daily balance. What is her new balance? Well, that's just that right there. We already did that one. So we are done with that. All right, now let's go ahead and, so I'm just going to cross that out because we already did it. Done. All right, last example here then. It says Vanna Dodd's credit card charge is based on the average daily balance method, new purchases included. Her monthly periodic rate is 2.3%, and her finance charge for the past billing cycle was $29. Find her average daily balance. Well, if we are using the periodic rate, we're using the finance charge, we're finding the average daily balance. There's going to be a little bit of work that we have to figure out on this. So if we're looking at our different formulas here, the problem that we're looking at right now, the 3 things it mentions are periodic rate, mentions that, mentions the finance charge, and it mentions the average daily balance. So periodic rate, finance charge, daily balance. Average daily balance, I don't see periodic rate or finance charge in this formula. So probably not going to have to use that one. Finance charge, average daily balance, periodic rate. So we're using this equation here because those are the three things mentioned in the problem. So this is the formula that we're using. We're using the finance charge formula on this one. So here we go. Finance charge equals the average daily balance times periodic rate. So of these three things, we know two of them. We know what the finance charge is. It's $29. So I'm going to write 29 equals, let's see, the average daily balance we don't know. That's what we're trying to calculate here. So we'll just call that A. And the periodic rate is 2.3% or 0.023. And again, just like we did a couple days ago, I'm going to switch these around and put the variable after the number because it's multiplication and the order of multiplication does not matter. So 0.023A. Another reason why we're using this formula here instead of this one here is because we don't know the sum of the daily balances, obviously, and we also, there's no way for us to figure out the number of days. There's absolutely zero way for us to figure out the number of days on this because it says her monthly periodic rate, her finance charge for the last billing cycle. It gives us no indication of when in the year that billing cycle is. So we can't even use this table to figure out how many days it's been because it doesn't give us any information on what month we're dealing with or how many days in between it is at all. So that's why we kind of had to choose the formula, the finance charge formula here. So solving is straightforward, just a one-step equation, divide by 0.023 on both sides, and that'll give us the average daily balance. So here we go, 29 divided by 0.023, $1,260.87. So $1,260.87. So there we go. And that wraps up our very last lesson of chapter 7. So let's go ahead and have a quick look at the assignment, and then we'll call it a day. So these problems look very, very similar to what we just did. So in fact, 12 through 18 look almost exactly the same as what we just did from that last page that we just worked on. So very similar thing there. Just remember to make sure that your number of days are accurate. Include both the first and the last day there. So September 19th through 24th, 24 minus 19 is 5, but you have to add in both dates. So it's actually 6 days there for the 19th through the 24th. And again, if you need to use your hands, that's fine. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 6 days. Count it out on your hands if you need to. 19, very much like the first one that we did. 19 will be a little bit of a challenge. So I'm going to be taking questions tomorrow, by the way, because tomorrow we're going to start our review. So if you have any questions on 7.1, 7.2, or 7.3, tomorrow would be a great day to ask those. And then I will also post the review tomorrow. And we'll be going over the answers to the review on Monday. And I'll take questions on the review on Monday as well. And then Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, we'll be working on the tests. So that's what we got coming up. And we're just about out of time. So I'm going to go ahead and call it there. And we'll call that